All right, False Shepherd here. So this is going to be a little different from what I've done lately. Um, so this one I actually researched a lot. Did a lot of research on this one, and it's basically about the Afghan War. So I'm going to do a breakdown about the Afghan War, since obviously combat operations are starting to cease to exist right now in Afghanistan. So Afghanistan's it's a pretty weird place for me. It is what it is. But let's just get into the context of this. So the Afghan war started really kicking off in 2001 after September 11th. It was the response the United States did to combating the war on terror with President Bush. So there's a lot of moving parts to Afghanistan. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001. I took a lot of notes about it. The numbers and the ratios of just this war on terror. Well, actually, Afghanistan. It's really interesting because Afghanistan was really the place where special operations really came to be born, and special operations was used a lot in the beginning of the war and in the end of the war too. Or I don't even want to say end of the war because it's not technically over yet, but pretty much is over. So Afghanistan is just so in a nutshell, there was a battle that happened in October 7th of 2001. It was in a province. It was a lot of special forces. A Master Sergeant Chapman. He was actually an Air Force guy, and he was given the Medal of Honor for his actions. There was a SEAL team that was pinned down in this Air Force traffic control, air traffic control, something like that. It was we called him oh God, man, I'm forgetting what in the Marine Corps, Anglico. Yeah, Fort Observer. Basically, he actually exposed himself, and he went above and beyond by taking out two enemy. Yeah, JTAC. That's right. Taking out two enemy. Thank you. Taking out two enemy bunkers. One of them, the crazy thing is when he was doing this, man, he got shot like straight up a few times, and he still took one bunker, killed all the Afghanis that were in there, Taliban, and then the second bunker, he did the same thing too, but he succumbed to his wounds and he died from it. So basically, and that was one of the bravest things from the Afghan war. The Afghan wars where empires go to die. So it's a very interesting region and an interesting country. It's isolated because of where it's at, because of the mountains and just where Afghanistan is at. You can never really. I don't think Afghanistan has ever really came into any kind of technological or kind of advances with the rest of the world. Honestly, if you look at from a nutshell, there was from 2003 to 2008 that's when the Taliban was regrouping. That's when the Taliban started doing they when okay. Let's back it up. Get some context here to how Afghanistan really is. So Afghanistan, if you don't know where it's at, it's between and Pakistan, and it's near Iran, so it's put in the middle of it. So that's where Afghanistan's at. It's a very, very, I would say, nomadic tribe area. And that's the problem with Afghanistan. A lot of Westerners think that they can go over there and control it when it's really hard to control because you can't control it. It's different people, different things going, just a whole different. To me, it's a timeline. You're basically going back to the medieval times when you're talking about Afghanistan, talking about it. So that's the thing with Afghanistan. It's a very, very weird backwood freaking country, but you have to respect it because the people are freaking harder than shit. I have a lot of respect for the Taliban because they are not easy to fucking kill. So they get my respect in there. It's just amazing and just how hard these people really are and just what you can do to them. They proved that the Soviets went in there in the 80s and the 70s, late 70s, left in the 80s because of just, there was a communist coup back then. And the Soviets went to support it. And of course, the Americans went in and supported the Mujahideen. Mujahideen was trained by the CIA and by the Americans to beat the Soviets. But let's just rewind because I know there's just so much information about Afghanistan. It's just so overwhelming. So let's break it down by yearly. So it's 2003 to 2008 when the Taliban was regrouping. The reason why the Taliban was regrouping was when the Afghan war kicked off. The Americans, we did really good. You think about it. There was the allies that were with us were Britain, New Zealand, Canada, and ourselves. We were the main freaking the allies for this global war on terror. We were actually we went in there and we started. Britain played a big role in the Afghan the Afghan war with us, right beside us. So, and not to mention, this was when there was over 12 different countries that sent special forces. So again, this goes back to my argument that Afghanistan was the perfect grounds of special operations. This was the birth of special operations. If you remember, special operations didn't do too well. Remember the whole Iranian incident when with Carter, when they went to go save all those Americans, and the Green Beret got there. It was a shit show. They were shot down, and it really bad. And it wasn't until reached the Afghan war to 2000, the war in Afghanistan. I call the Afghan war not Revolution Enduring Freedom, but the Afghan war with America, when special operations really came out there, it was just amazing. Just 12 different countries sent special operations. Germany, Denmark, even the South Koreans, everybody sent their special forces in there, and I believe just to get some train out of it. So the beginning of the Afghan war, you have this huge thing. You have the 75th Ranger Battalion going down south. They were tearing the shit out of the Taliban, and you had all these special operations all over, just blanket all over that country doing things. So when the war on terror kicked off again, and it kicked off in Iraq, that's when a lot of the money and a lot of the supplies went to support the war in Iraq, and that's when you lose. That's when the Taliban had this time to kind of regroup. That was from 2003 to 2008. So through 2011, you guys all remember under the Obama administration that Bin Laden was supposedly killed. All right, I still don't believe it, because if it was up to me and if I was the commander in chief, I would have displayed his remains for the whole world to see. Just like when we killed Saddam's sons, Udain and Uda and Udain. I can't remember. I know the crazy one was Udain, right? Somebody quote me if I'm wrong. I'd love to tell you, but Udain was fucking batshit fucking crazy. But they killed him, and I believe he was the one that had the. It was his left leg that he had that brace, and they displayed his remains. They cut him open and everything, and they had the leg out, so you knew it was him, Udain Hussein. All right, so that was that's why I would have displayed Bin Laden's remains, because Bin Laden's remains should have been displayed so the United States can see who it is. And I really understand death, buried at sea and everything, to be sympathetic to the Muslim faith, but nah, man, I would display those remains if I was in charge. So 2014 was the end of combat operations. So this is after I was there, and this is just a whole. That's when officially combat operations started to end in Afghanistan. It's always if you're in somebody else's country, it's combat. I don't know why they even thought that. 2007 it was a different strategy. That's when they started really thinking about losing the war in Afghanistan, which don't ask me what I think about losing the war, but it's I don't know. I'll get that in more depth. So let's rewind. So you have Afghanistan. The reason why Afghanistan was such a hotbed for terrorists there's so many slew of reasons, but the main reason was because after the Soviets left, the Mujahideen was in complete control of the country. The problem is, just like always, with Afghanistan, there are different tribes. So different tribes they may beef with each other over something stupid that happened years ago. So when that happened and the Americans left, and as always, we went into the country and fucked it up and then took off from it, the Afghanis were succumbed to the Taliban. The Taliban was the main, praying the Sharia law all over the place. Thanks, Baklai. So Uday, yeah. So all over the place. So the Taliban took over the country, and then that's when they started all this huge freaking heroin collection. If you don't know, 75% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan. That's the number one cash crop for the Afghan people. So that's another big thing, and that drug money, which is very expensive, is what fuels the Taliban, and their income and their country's I say GOP, their growth from their country, because that's where the money comes from. So it's from heroin. So that's one thing that blew my mind, and that's another reason why I think America is really good at letting the heroin still come through that country, because it's there's a opiate pandemic in good old freaking Iran right now, and it's because of the Americans slitting that shit through. So that's one reason why Afghanistan was very appealing to Bin Laden. If you didn't know him, Bin Laden actually comes from a very wealthy family in the kingdom, which is Saudi Arabia. If you don't know what the kingdom is, Saudi Arabia, man, you guys should know this shit. So the kingdom is where Bin Laden was born, and he was American taught. Everything's debatable that when he became a freedom fighter to fight the jihad, he was fighting the Russians. So it's really debatable if he knew what he was doing, and if he knew a war would, I don't know if he knew a war would come with America eventually, because we were the ones that were training him. So it's kind of weird, but that's something there. But all I know is that Clinton did not like Bin Laden, and there were a lot of operations trying to assassinate and kill Bin Laden, which never happened. Remember the bombing of the USS Cole? That was Bin Laden, and the Clinton administration failed to freaking kill good old Osama bin Laden. So let's go back into just what context of Afghanistan. So, Afghanistan's actually isolated from the rest of the freaking region because of the mountains it has. So you have Afghanistan, you have all these mountains, like a ring of mountains that surround the whole entire country in the most inner part of it. And that's a lot of reasons why a lot of empires could not take over that because honestly, the terrain is horrible in Afghanistan. It's like watching freaking such a stupid movie everybody likes, like Frodo and shit. And when they're coming up and they get the ring and there's this huge ass mountain freaking scene. That looks like Afghanistan. So it's isolated from the country. In 1978 there was a communist revolution in Afghanistan, and that's what brought the Soviets into Afghanistan. And that's when America went and did the whole entire backing up the freaking Mujahideen and train them. That's the CIA. Remember that. There's the before any of these operations went down, the CIA played a huge role before any American boots were on the ground. So that's the thing. So the CIA worked with a group from Pakistan called ISI. I can't remember what it's called. It's like our CIA to Pakistan. Remember, before this, Pakistan was really adamant in giving money to Mujahideen and giving what they needed. So that was part of the CIA and the ISI movement from freaking support from Pakistan. So after that, in 1989, the Soviets, I believe they pulled out. Yes, 89, the Soviets pulled out. And this is when it gets into where the country starts to change. The Taliban gets in control. Pakistan supported the Taliban all the way up from 89 all the way up until the freaking, the 9/11 shit happened. And the real say 9/11 shit, I'm not downplaying not having 9/11 was a horrible thing ever. So everybody's saying sensitive. No, I'm just saying just this whole, it's a whole domino effect of how all this happened and the politics behind it and how America went into this war. And I don't think America was ever really serious about this war. And then I'll give you guys my debate and why not. They weren't. So you go back to the Pakistan was given the Taliban everything they needed. So the U.S. stepped in and gave an ultimatum to Pakistan and said, "Hey, man, you're either with us or you support the Taliban." And that's when I think it was like October 7th. Let me look on my notes. I actually took notes this time because I really this was a pretty cool experience learning about Afghanistan. Honestly, October 7th. Yeah, that's when the Pakistani government freaking openly freaking criticized the Taliban, and that's what really solidified Pakistan is. But this is weird though. That's why I'm really weird about Pakistan. Pakistan is one of those countries that they're our allies, but there was a situation one time when when back in 2002 when the Taliban was getting their ass kicked and they were completely falling out, that a ISI, especially Central and their intelligence agency of Pakistan, actually C-130'd a bunch of freaking senior Al Qaeda and Taliban members out of the freaking country, and that was an operation. Oh God, what was it called? There was a huge big deal about it. There's actually a movie about it. Oh, the airlift of evil. We can look at that up. It's pretty interesting just how the United States intelligence, kind of fucked up and we were able to let these people go. And it's even argued that maybe Osama bin Laden was in that, or the other argument was that he went to Tora Bora, and that's where he escaped and then went into Pakistan. That's where he was killed in Pakistan. So yeah. So when the war kicked off in Afghanistan, we're talking we're before the war in Iraq. So we're like 2001 to 2003. The Northern Alliance was one of the people that freaking helped the Americans get a foothold. But before any American special forces went down there were 8 people, of course, CIA agents that went in there with $3 million cash to go talk to the freaking main guy of the Northern Alliance to get them on board with the American forthcoming of trying to take over the Taliban and hunt down Osama bin Laden. So, that was the whole cash, paying the terrorist. Well, I don't call them a terrorist, but yeah, terrorist. Sorry, the Northern Alliance. They're paying the Northern Alliance to kill a terrorist. So that was a big deal. And yet again, the CIA doing CIA things. So read about it. It's pretty cool. And then you go to the Kabul. The Kabul, before Kabul fell, the Bazaar, I can't pronounce it. Was one of the was a key battle. It kind of was the domino effect of the Taliban, getting completely crushed by American might and American air power. Because American air power was it went unchecked, actually, and that's why the Taliban, would be stupider than to move during daylight with American air power above them. So that was a freaking big deal. That was one of the tactical reasons why the Taliban kind of freaking got soft, got quiet, not soft, but got quiet and just went away and faded into the darkness for a while. But they came back ferociously. So from then the 2003 war in Iraq happened, and that moved a lot of stuff like that. So you think about, man, you think about the cost. You think about what has happened in Afghanistan. Here we are. It's almost fucking 20 years, 19 years. It's ridiculous. 20 since the Afghan war. My kids have been around as long as we've been at war with Afghanistan. So here's the cost. It cost 2,400 American lives. It's cost over 1,100 freaking NATO. These are the numbers as of freaking last month. It's cost over 45,000 Afghan police and Afghan freaking army, AAA, which I don't even want to get started with the Afghan army, but that's the cost of it. And you got to give this is where I argue that the United States was never serious about it. The Taliban's withstand 3 different American presidencies. 3. It's withstand the different freaking tactical, different freaking combat operations that the United States has done to change, to adapt to the ever-changing combat environment. You think about special forces. You have special forces from over 12 different nations. Special forces were there. Navy SEALs. You have Marine. MARSOC stood up in 2006 and became the Marine Raider Battalion because the Marines needed another special forces besides Force Recon. So you're thinking about all this stuff and what the Afghan war has done. So my argument with the Afghan war would be the fact that it's honestly was used to me to really test our armed forces and our special forces and see what they're at. And it proved to the Taliban that America will be there no matter what. But then you get into the idea of really, was there really a way out of this war, or was it just to acquire more money, like Ike warned us? Military complex. So that's what I just don't understand about it, man. It's just a really weird war. I don't think we're ever serious about it. Yeah, if you look at from 2001 to 2003, there was a very big pivotal point. There was 84,000. Well, when they first invaded, let's see here. So there were 4,850. So okay, let's rewind. So it was all special forces driven until the war in Iraq kind of started to get wind down in 2005, 2006. And it was 48,500 freaking troops out there in Afghanistan. So that was the numbers that were kept until the Obama administration, which is why freaking Democrats, they love their war. 68, the numbers jumped up to 68,000. So from during the Obama administration, there were 68,000 combat troops in Afghanistan. All right. It's a big change from freaking 48,500. So that was just a new strategy that was being that went into effect. And then later, when you look at the Trump administration and General Mattis had a really good. This is where I'm torn, because I'm very anti-war and I'm kind of sick of these wars. But the fact that Trump wants to end this, and it's looking like it's going to end, and he wants to bring not everybody home, but a majority of the troops in Afghanistan home by Christmas. What does that really mean? Does that mean this is the end of the war, that this is it, or the U.S. yet again to learn how to wage war or modify our armed forces to react to certain different threats? So this is a very big debate, and I wish somebody could come on here and debate this with me, because I really don't know. I feel like this is just it's just a way that the American might and the military industrial complex makes its money. And unfortunately, it was the cost of when how many people were dead. have died from this. Friends of mine, friends of a lot of people I know, 4,800, 2,400 Americans died from this alone. And not to mention the 1,100 NATO troops and the 45,000 Afghanis, AAA. What about the civilians and how many of the freaking Taliban have we killed? No one really knows the number of the Taliban because the Taliban like take their fucking dead. Firefight, they're usually really good at that, and they don't leave their dead. So that's kind of hard to do a battle damage assessment when you have no idea what kind of your battle damage you're trying to do. So it's a really weird, fucked up situation. So you get back to what I was saying about Trump and everything. And it's just, Martin's right. The post-war death and the illness is also, who knows who fucking knows, man. That number hasn't even been given because remember, burn pits they're not going to be a thing. Burn pits are going to become our equivalent to our Agent Orange for Vietnam vets. Watch. And so you're getting fucking cancer in weird places, just horrible, man. But you go back to just where we're at right now in the war and what Mattis said. Mattis was very frustrated with Trump because Trump wanted to end the war and completely come home. Where Mattis understand the obligation we had to the rest of our allies to stay the course in Afghanistan. It was to continue to support and send more troops and to win, because honestly, it was a stalemate. It's argued that since this year alone, since 2020, a lot of the United States has really come down with a lot of the war effort in Afghanistan. And so as a Taliban, the Taliban's actually openly going out and having parades with the Taliban troops, which why would you do that with American superiority of air? And they're doing that. So the question is, has the notion of us leaving has it made the Taliban stronger? And I think it has. Even though they were kind of a backwood freaking, basically farmers with freaking AK-47s, they managed to beat another world power. And I don't know if this world power was really serious in waging that war and trying to win it and to end combat operations in Afghanistan. I don't really think that's just it's really weird, man. It's just there's just so many questions when it comes to Afghanistan and just what needs to be done and what should be done. And is it right going home? Is it right to finally call this war off? And I think it is. I envy my grandfather for having a war that lasts, for the Americans, from 41 to 45. Well, he came home in 46 because he got stuck out there in Okinawa, and then so their war ended, and now I'm here, 37, going to be 38 in the next couple months, and it's just like, wow, my war's, thanks. The war is still going on, and there's really, it ends at no one's going to fucking care. The American people don't really give a shit. No one's really invested in it. I remember I saw a quote once, and it was somebody wrote on a whiteboard somewhere in the Middle East that America's been at war since 2001, but Americans they're at the shopping mall. They don't care, and they don't. It's different now, and that's why I just get so frustrated with it. It just there's so much stuff in this country that blinds you and distracts you from actual freaking things going on. Like, your country's been at war for this long. Your country's been bombing these people in the Middle East, Yemen, and Afghanistan for God knows what reason, but it has been doing it since 2001. And all you're worried about is WAP, Kardashians, and buying a new fucking car. And it's kind of sad. It's like you have friends that died in this conflict, and it's just like the resolution when it's end. What am I going to get out of this? Am I going to get a parade? Are we going to get a parade? Are we going to get a parade? No, we're not going to get anything. And it's just it's the drag of it. Like, this war was never meant to be won, and that's just my belief on the whole Afghan war. That was just it's the reason why I did this is because I get weird around this time of month from my own reasons, so I'm gonna keep that at bay. But I just felt like something had to be said about Afghanistan instead of one of my rants, and I try to get as much information as I can. There's so much information in Afghanistan, and there's a lot of friends I have that are veterans of the Afghan war and that are currently even here on my feed right now that are in Afghanistan, and it's just a I don't know. It's to me, it's more politics than anything. I understand why Mattis wanted to keep the fight going because it just looks really weak on the out and our allies that were kind of pulling out when they invested a lot of stuff too. I understand 1,100 to 2,400 American dead. That's a big difference, but still the Great Britain, New Zealand, the Danes, the Germans, all these countries that are in South, South Koreans, all these people that were in Afghanistan are giving all the support. Even Spain was there one time. It's like we're pulling out now, and we're not serious about it. So it's just, what are we going to do now? We leave the Taliban's and become an. I don't think the Afghan army will be able to defeat the Taliban because if the Taliban's going to having parades in Kabul, and you're having parades in freaking Kandahar, and the AA is not doing shit about it. They're going to get overran again, and it's just going to be another totalitarian government, and the Taliban will freaking reign terror yet again. And then Pakistan will fund the Taliban again. Same thing with the heroin and the opiate freaking profit. So it's just kind of like a violent cycle, and just it's like that hornet's nest, or it's like that ex-girlfriend you dumped. Just keep getting entanglements with her, and it's getting over and over again. It's getting kind of old, but you keep doing it, and it ain't no good for you, but you keep getting those entanglements. So that's Afghanistan. So that's just really all I really have in Afghanistan. I know this one's a very short one. Usually I'm on a drunken rampage rant. I have a new one coming up. I'm actually doing a lot of research for the California voting. That's the next thing. I want to see what a lot of these props are. So I'll get into that, but that's basically it. If there's any questions, if anybody's got any freaking questions, I'll go ahead and answer them regarding the Afghanistan war. But that's really it in a very small nutshell. I would love for you guys to look up, the different operations. Look up that Master Sergeant Chapman, man. That dude paid the ultimate price, man, and he got shot numerous times, and he still held his position, and he freaking did what he had to do. There's also freaking the airlift of evil was when the Pakistan government airlifted all those head leaders of the Taliban and the good old Al Qaeda folks out, and then he got them to Pakistan. Are you there? What's your usual? Okay, so my question from Martin C. was when a civilian asks you why you were there, what's your usual answer you're going to give them? I don't really try to tell anybody I was there. I just kind of ignore it and just leave it be because I can't answer why we were in Afghanistan. To find Osama bin Laden, no. No, what we were. Afghanistan was a great way when people are scared and when you can mass people behind a cause. You can do a lot, and it can be very good and very bad. And when the towers fell on 9/11, that was a very good way to push. This is kind of politics, push new ideas and push the overreach of government, and to push this idea that we need to go around the world and police the world at the cost of our, middle class and working lower class citizens and upper class too citizens. Everybody got thrown in the meat grinder and to make a profit. So when people ask me why we're in Afghanistan, I answer, Martin, is I have no idea. I don't know. If it was to kill Osama bin Laden, then I doubt it. If it was to prevent, you always hear America's going for fighting for freedom. Who's freedom? There hasn't been a good war since World War II. Vietnam was a whole different. The stop the spread of communism. Korean War was one of those two. You look at the Gulf War. The Gulf War was, Gulf War had to be done, I think, because that's a whole different monster. Because the invasion of Kuwait and pushing those allies and America getting involved in everything and ousting Saddam Hussein, even though we put Saddam Hussein in power. The Afghan War, I don't know, man. That's something that history will defy it one day. But to me, it's been the biggest fucking waste of all time. But there's. Like I said, from the perspective of tactically and from the special forces perspective, it was really good training. I hate to say it like that, but and Sun Tzu's Art of War, one of the most important things is being battle hardened, and fighting a battle hardened enemy is a very tough thing to do. And that's what a lot of these troops coming back, a lot of us coming back from the Afghan war, a lot of us are battle hardened. And same thing with the Taliban. They're extremely battle hardened because they've been fighting ever since the 70s with the Mujahideen. So yeah, that's just my take on what civilians ask me. So what else? Other questions do I have? So the questions I got from White Claws pulling out of Afghanistan, the long-term effects it will have. Well, obviously, it's just the Taliban will come back to power again, and then from there, the Taliban will do what it has to do to regain that power, and that's going to be, Syrian law or whatever how you say it, Syrian law. And that's when Pakistan obviously is going to get more involved and get more money to the Taliban like it did before the global war on terrorism started back in 2001. So us leaving there, will we be completely out of there? I doubt we'll be completely out of there. I think we will leave people there because Iran's in the middle. And if we have to, we can actually fight on two fronts and, prong Iran. So us leaving the war, it's gonna be it's just gonna be interesting. I don't know. I really wish we never went there, but we'll see what the after effects of it are. And yet again, it's gonna be a very weak, democratically elected government that's going to be overtaken by the Taliban yet again, just like in Iraq with ISIL or ISIS, and back and again American involvement with Syria and everything, and Obama pushing that stuff. Remember, Obama, the numbers jumped to 68,000 from the Obama administration. And what happened? To that, it was to a bloody stalemate, and that's it. And then we're pulling out. Any other questions before I end this? Anything Afghanistan related, anything at all? Going once. Going twice. Yeah, it's a very short one. Yet again, all right, so fuck it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get more information. I'm in a different county than a lot of you are, so I'm going to try to hit Orange County. This is the next, we talk about China in your future. Okay, China. Yeah, I will talk about China. You see that this is the thing with China. I just, China, that's a huge one to talk about, actually, because you're talking about China in the context of just in what context of just from a military perspective or from just how, remember in 1980, freaking all of Africa had a bigger GDP than freaking China did. Now China it's tremendously grown, and it's grown because of just the cheap labor, the exploitation of its people, and the government be doing what the Chinese do. They're communists, but they're making a lot of money out of it. So it's really weird about China, man. I will do one on China. I promise, Martin. I really will, because that's what I'm going to research too. Because I'm not that really keen and smart about the Chinese government, but I know it's a communist society, and I know that China, from the military perspective of it, I really, you have to always remember, man. And this is what makes this country great. And it's because we spend more than half of our freaking GDP on freaking the government, man. And the armed forces. So even if China was to spend that kind of money, it would take them years to catch up to us, and not to mention just the way that Americans are. And from a combat perspective, I don't think the Chinese have what it takes to beat us. If it was the 40s and it was winter and it was Russia, then yeah, I would say yeah, but that has no aspect anymore. Weather still plays a role, but not as powerful as it did in World War II. So I will do one in China. Okay, fine. Okay, Chinese finally take. Okay, remember the people that own America was the biggest grantor of debt back in the 80s, and it changed. The number one person that owns America's debt is not China, it's Japan. Japan owns our debt a lot. And the reason for that is because the Japanese have a very, it was a professor of economics teaching one time, and I heard this, that Japan owns America's debt just to keep their economy going and buying bonds and everything. China is the second to own that owns our debt. So the cyber war with China, that's another good one too. So yeah, I need to do with China because I'm getting all these China things. Yeah, remember when this country, before fucking 9/11, hackers used to hack the shit out of everything, but now that's a terrorist freaking attack now and a threat. So that's why I think that the Patriot Act, good old Patriot Act, was one of the reasons why hacking and computer science, America's such a computer scientist. We're so far behind, and it's really sad. Back in the day, I used to be really heavy in computers, and just being the edge. College killed computer science for me, and I changed my major. I fucking hate computer science in a college aspect of it. It's just so fucking boring and just so swollen with just ugh. I hate it. You're stressing all these kids out about programming, and there's so much more to computer science than programming. Computer security is a huge thing, and I miss the old days in the '90s and the early or the late '90s and the early 2000s when I used to go to Afghan. I worked at JPL and shit. It was fucking. I loved it, man. Just fucking sad what it's come down to now. But yeah, we need to do one on China. You guys got me sold. So I'll do one. I'll do one. So the next podcast will be about California voting and the different ballots and everything. So this is a really short one. It's only 35 minutes. I'm going to talk to my producer. We made a really good podcast about freaking relationships, and it kind of, in a perception of mine and how I view relationships, trying to get that. There's like a 2-hour fucking video though, man. It's really good shit though. Besides that, do I have any other questions for freaking anything at all? Well, Afghan related, nothing. Yeah, I'm surfing to keep myself on. Anything at all? No? All right. So the next podcast is going to be on the California voting stuff, all the props and everything. I'll give my perspective on it. And no means am I telling you to vote the way I would vote, because honestly, if it involves raising taxes, I'm not a Halloween party. I'll address that. I'm not going to vote to raise taxes, even if it's for a good cause, because when you give government money, it's not for a good cause. It goes somewhere else. Trust me. Government ain't stupid. They're going to siphon money from everything. Why do you think they borrow money from Social Security? It's supposed to be for society, right? And your elderly, and your Medicare and your Medicare. Yeah, Medicare is federal. They borrow against it. Your government does that all the time. It's awesome. And then the next one I'm going to do is on China. And then before that, I'm going to get my producer. We're going to get the relationship one out. And then if you have any questions or anything like that, email me or send me a DM or whatever they call it on my Instagram, Anthony Gomez 0331. And then we'll go ahead and hit those subs. You guys got questions or anything, let me know. All right. I was asked by Barton Halloween party. If you're close to me, you know who I am. And I invited you to a Halloween party at my house, October 24th. Come anytime you want. I'm going to be working on my shit, my cars, but come on by, and then we'll just get drunk and I don't know, do a bunch of dumb shit. And that's all I got. All right. Hey, thank you all for listening, man. Please research some of the Afghan stuff. You trip out. Afghanistan's a very interesting country, and just how we've been at war with that place since 2001. A lot of tales of heroism come out of freaking Afghanistan. If you want, I would say, read about that Master Sergeant, man, that Chapman, the Air Force cat. That's pretty awesome. That man gave his life so those Navy SEALs can be here today. It's amazing, man, that somebody can get shot that many times and held his position and killed more and more Taliban. Read about the freaking good old which operation was it? When the CIA came down, a jawbreaker, with the eight CIA agents went in with the Northern Alliance and gave them $3 million cash to fight along the American side. That's a good one. Also read about the era left of evil. That's another good thing. Always question why the Democrats decided to amp up Afghanistan with 68,000 more troops, and there was no outcome, and there really wasn't. That was the whole Sangin thing going on too, for all us 3-5 Marines and everybody that was there during that entire time. So please research and question everything that your government's doing regarding Afghanistan. Let's just see what happens with this election. I'm really interested to see if it's true from the scuttlebutt I heard that if Biden wins, they're going to amplify Afghanistan again and try to save, like he did in Vietnam. What is it called? What did Nixon say? Not retreat, not leave with dignity, retreat with glory, or something like that. I can't remember. If somebody can quote that, what good old Nixon said. That's just. Yeah, it's like our Vietnam. You think about Afghanistan, it's a slew of freaking guerrilla warfare, and that's why we're just never really gonna win it. And that's all I got. So I thank you guys all for freaking being patient with me and tuning in. And I will see you guys. I don't know. I'm gonna try to get dates going. I'm gonna try to see if I can do short podcasts in the morning. So when you're driving to your job, which society deems you to be a slave, because you got to pay this, you got to pay that, you get a mortgage, California, you got to get taxed for everything, and you're only successful if you go to college and and get a degree in some weak ass freaking studies, and you can't get a job. So that's success in this country. And you have a nice car, and you're leasing another car that you can't afford, and living at your parents' house because it's just inadequate and too expensive to live in California. But yeah, we'll try to figure that out, and give you guys something to listen to, But that's really it. So I pledged. Oh, somebody pulled it up. Nixon. Before I go, I pledge to you that we shall have an honorable end to the war in Vietnam. Thank you, Brad Lee Graham. That's what Nixon said. So maybe you'll hear it from Biden, since Biden likes to steal freaking speeches. Joe Biden will say, "I pledge to you that we shall have an honorable end to the war in Vietnam." We'll have it. I pledge to you, Joe Biden, sniffer of children, toucher of women, pedophile probably, warmonger, racist guy undercover under the Democratic flag, person that supported Jim Crow laws. I can't remember them because I'm not a racist. States' rights when it's convenient. And I pledge to you that we shall have an honorable end to the war in Afghanistan. Fucking joke. All right, man. God bless all you, man. I'm out. All right, that end of the podcast.